I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Mark Struczewski. Are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm doing most excellent. How are you doing, sir?
I am excellent, my friend. It's a great pleasure to connect with you. Tell me, what part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in the great country of Houston, Texas.
Love it. How did you get through the flooding that went on up there?
Well, my wife and I apparently won the lottery when we purchased our house. We are not near any bayous or rivers or waterways, so
Sweet.
We did not flood but 20 inches of water in our street. And as soon as the storm stopped, the water drained, and we thought everything was back to normal. Little did we realize most of Houston was underwater.
Wow. I mean, you give thanks for small mercies, right? Wow.
Yes, sir.
Well, tell us, which of your talents is responsible for us meeting?
My podcast, the Mark Struczewski Podcast.
Oh, sweet. Tell us more about your podcast, Mark.
Well, my podcast is about helping people take their productivity to the next level. And I am interviewing people, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners, etc., and finding out how these individuals stay productive throughout their day. You know, what are their weaknesses? How do they overcome their weaknesses? And then a fun question I always ask my guests is, what piece of knowledge would you go back and tell your younger self that you know now that you wish you knew then? It's kind of fun.
Yeah. It's a big question. I love it.
Indeed.
Yeah. So who did you learn the skill from? The skill of podcasting, the skill of conversation, the skill of questioning.
I actually self-taught myself. I went to the Google and YouTube, who knows all, and I learned it myself.
So was that a fun experience doing it that way?
It took a little longer than most people who go hire someone to teach them how to do it. But you know what? Sometimes you got to bump your shins on your journey, and then you learn quicker than if you don't make any mistakes at all. So I did make some mistakes, but you know what? It's doing well. So that's the thing that counts.
Mark, I for some reason Skype just like cut on me, right? While I was having a podcast. And what happened is for 2 days I didn't have Skype, right? So I needed to use Zoom to record. Oh my, talk about restart of the learning curve. I started one podcast, I didn't record it, right? I didn't hit the record button. But most definitely hitting your shins, as you just explained, it definitely helps, right? Like in very quickly, I was hitting that record button. In fact, I just set it to record automatically.
Yes.
So many times in life, the principles we're speaking about need to be applied, right? Learn from failures. Quote unquote, what is a failure, right? But learn from failures. It's really effective, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So why will you continue to repeat this skill?
Well, I love what I'm doing because it's not just about, okay, I'm a podcaster. But when people send me emails or send me a DM on social media and says, you know what, I heard something on your podcast and I got unstuck. I was stuck for so long, or I was overwhelmed, or I was full of fear of taking that next step. And that's the whole point of why I'm doing this podcast, is to help people really and truly get more things done.
Well, tell me one other thing you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
Well, I don't like to brag about this, but I'm going to, because it's the question you're asking me. Is 3.5 years ago, I decided to start reading the Bible every single day. And I can tell you that my wife has told me, without me even asking her, she says, you know, you are a changed man because you're reading it every day.
Wow. How does it make you feel?
Oh, I can't even tell you how it makes me feel. Words, there's not even enough words in our language to explain that.
What did you read this morning?
Oh, now you're testing me. Right now, I'm on the chronological plan, so I'm reading through the Gospels right now. It's one of those things where you read a chapter from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So I'm in the Gospels. That's all I can tell you.
Oh, sweet. Why would you suggest someone else do what you're doing?
The peace and the fact that it's the answers to every question you want to know about life.
Wow. Sounds fascinating. Folks, we are live with Mark. Mark has his podcast, right? Do check it out. It's available on everywhere podcasts are available, right? Isn't it, Mark?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the next level productivity, yeah?
Yes.
Check that out. Mark, let's switch gears for a moment. Now, let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Mark, what is your earliest childhood memory?
This takes me back, and it's kind of embarrassing. I don't know how old I was when this happened, but I remember I used to live up in Rochester, New York, and we had this gold riding lawnmower. And I remember sitting on my dad's lap. He let me steer the lawnmower, and our next door neighbor had this little tiny hill. And I thought, hey, it'd be cool to go up the hill. Well, I flipped the lawnmower over. Fortunately, the blades weren't going, but wow. That's one of those memories I will never forget.
So, an average age, well, you're thinking possibly what, like 4, 5, 6, 7?
Yeah, around average. There. I mean, I was on my dad's lap. I mean, obviously, I couldn't cut the lawn myself. So, I mean, I was on my dad's lap. My mother tries to block that memory. I mean, I think it's funny now, but she still doesn't think it's funny. I think it's hysterical.
So why do you think this memory is so clear?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's the first time I was in a wreck. I have no idea. Hopefully it's not an indication of what kind of driver I am, but I don't know why this memory is in my so clear to me.
Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
You were talking before about the process to learning podcasting and how you sometimes you need to get your shin hit, right? Or hitting your shin helps you to grow. It's fascinating at that point in time, even in that instant, you learned, right? It's the process, right? Like you did something, it didn't work, you were flipped over. But you learned and you go forward, and you're still doing that, and that's pretty amazing. You're not dead as yet.
Yeah, and that's true. And I can tell you this, that when I started cutting the lawn by myself, when I got old enough, I never went up the hill.
Exactly.
So I did learn my lesson.
Oh, well, Mark, No. Let me ask this. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
Oh, man. I remember going to the roller rinks. I wouldn't go on skates this day and age. But my favorite song back when I was 12, the best I can go back. Remember, I'm 52. I had to go way back. But I would have to say Dancing Queen by ABBA.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I could see you moving to that.
Not in a riding lawnmower.
Okay. All right, Mark. That's amazing. Well, Mark, we have arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form, so it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to go quickly here. Mark, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Well, I have 2 daughters, 23 and 20, but they have no interest in what I do. So the answer is not yet.
Okay. Now, you said you're married. You have 2 daughters. Yes. You said, yes. All right. Do you believe in God?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
That's a work in progress.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
Some days, especially football.
And what about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Oh, more than 8 hours, easily.
After 1,001 conversations in 3 months, Mark, I came up with a workbook that's called Yours, and it stands for your own unique real self. Connected to that is your own unique real statement. If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, your mission, something that represents Mark Struczewski, what would you say that is?
I would say keep it simple. Complexity is the gateway to procrastination.
Love it. Mark, wow. This was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I want to thank you for listening, and it would mean the world to me, and I mean the world, if you would check out the Mark Struczewski Podcast, and I would love to find out from you, your audience, I'm talking about, what they thought of the podcast, and most importantly, if they have any ideas for guests they'd like me to interview going forward.
Love it. Mark Struczewski, thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.